You're listening to the Confident Creative Podcast. I'm your host, Carrie Gavin, former professional photographer turned professional encourager. I'm an intuitive life and business mentor focused on strengthening courage and confidence for heart-centered creatives. These heart-centered creatives desire to make an impact and an income through sharing their heart with the world. This podcast is dedicated to helping us creatives activate more courage within ourselves so we can experience more memories, achieve more milestones, and make more money. In addition to empowering stories, this show will also include practical, actionable strategies from thought leaders, influencers, impact makers, and my own personal experience. If you are passionate about the areas of intentionally living, prioritizing passion, choosing courage, as well as some soulful business strategy, spirituality, and some self-mastery, you, my friend, are in the right place. You ready to play? Hey friends, Carrie Gavin here, the host of the Confident Creative Podcast, and I'm so excited to share this with you. This intermission is called The Great Betrayal. It is one of my favorite Facebook Lives I've ever done. It's just a recording of the Facebook Live because it feels so important to just keep it as authentic and as channeled as it came through for me. And the reason that I called it The Great Betrayal is you will find in this episode where sometimes things in our life don't go the way that we expect them to. But in my experience, that has always worked in my benefit. And it doesn't always feel like it at the time. But once I was able to really train my brain to see that life is happening for me and not to me, it shifted me from a very victimhood mentality, even though I didn't want to admit that that's what I was when that's what was happening. I was really sort of playing like the poor me card. And once I was able to really start to see this in a different light and shift my perspective, I was able to feel much more safe and secure to know that there was a reason that things were happening, right? And so you might have heard this through like different kinds of little quotes and things where we say, oh, it's a blessing in disguise, or, I could never have imagined it worked out this way, but it's perfectly designed and all of those things. But the reason why I really feel like it's the great betrayal is because sometimes we feel like we know the best, right? And if we know the best, our little monkey mind knows all the infinite possibilities. It starts to feel a little silly when we think that out of everything in the universe, we are the ones that know the best circumstance or situation or event that could play out. And when we start to shift that a little bit, we get to see and we get to play and we get to see that, actually, maybe there's a greater good. Maybe there's a blessing in disguise. And so the Great Betrayal is all about really reframing, the circumstances that maybe we don't feel great about, but shifting our perspective and knowing that there's something on the other side. So I would love to hear how it feels for you, what lands for you. We can continue the conversation over in the Confident Creative Collective over on Facebook, and I will speak to you soon. Let's get started. Good morning, friends. Happy Thursday. I just wanted to share some thoughts this morning. Maybe this is for you. Title of this live is The Great Betrayal. If you're here and you can hear me, let me know. It's a little windy out here. So it's a little bright. Whoa, wow. So here's the thing. I actually really believe that, hey Tina, I really believe that we are fully supported by God or the universe or whatever it is that feels good for you. But I also believe that there is this thing that I call the Great Betrayal. And so what that looks like, Kara, yay! What that looks like for me, can you hear me, Kara? It's a little windy, so I'm not sure. So I call the Great Betrayal this idea, this concept where sometimes, hey Jackie, sometimes things don't work out for us the way that we envision them to work out, right? So one of my favorite mantras is that life is happening for me, not to me. And this has really shifted so much in my life. And I was journaling this morning, and the thing that was coming up for me was that this great betrayal is just so much evidence that we are always supported for our best version of ourselves, right? So I don't always have notes, but I did take a little bit of notes this morning. And so just because I didn't want to forget, I think this is super important. And so the great betrayal is what I like to believe, or what I feel like is true, is the betrayal of ourself and turning your back on your heart. And so what that typically, hey Amy, what that typically looks like is things don't work out for you, you lose a job, you end a relationship, you don't get the job, the bid, you don't get the contract, whatever it is. And so you start to feel like you did something. And so then you make it about you not being enough, and you turn your back on your intuition, and you turn your back on your heart. And to me, that's sort of the greatest betrayal there is. But more than that, it's two sides of the same coin, right? So like, you feel as though you've been betrayed, but in fact, the universe or God or source or spirit or whatever feels good for you is simply just course correcting, right? So maybe you lost the job, but it was the losing of the job that allowed you to start your own business. Or maybe you ended a relationship or it became ended, or it ended, and you were able to find someone that was more connected, right? And so we have this inner guidance system that, Kara, we have this inner guidance system that is always on, and that's our heart, right? And so we often can turn our back on our heart when we're trying to get approval from other places. And this starts super young, right? Like when you're little and you want to make friends and fit in, you start doing the things that you think is going to get you the approval of other people and other cool kids and whatever it means, right? And so this sort of betrayal of yourself is the greatest betrayal in the world, and also the greatest gift in the world, because it's always setting you up to return to your heart. And that's really what my work is about. So I believe my soul work here on this earth is to help people remember who they are and give them the permission that they don't even need, but maybe they feel like they need, to be all of you, to authentically, holistically, whatever that means for you, just be you. And, you know, it is absolutely essential that we live our truth and we live who we really are, and we let go of the need of approval from others, because when you don't need that, you can really shine your light and be who you were meant to be. So it's absolutely essential that you trust yourself, and it's absolutely essential that you are able to shift your perspective to things that are maybe not, you can't really see it yet, and it's just not quite working out yet, or the way that you thought it should go, but trusting in that you have the ability to lean into your heart and trust your intuition and be guided back to the better version, right? So when you don't trust yourself, you take action out of the need for pleasing others, which is essentially pinching off your own truth, your own freedom, your own authentic beingness, right? So when you're in the place of needing approval from others, it's a really dangerous place to live. Amy, mind blown. Yes, betraying ourselves by seeking approval elsewhere and turning our backs on our intuition. Gosh, this feels so true. Amy, totally, right? Like and the reason I'm sharing this is because I've actually been, you know that I live in authenticity land, and I've been in a season where I've sort of turned my back on my own heart a little bit and forgotten what my work is really about. And not that I wasn't doing it, I was just sort of doing it to a less degree. And so I felt like it was important to share this because it was really clear to me over the last few weeks, over the last few months, just like reflecting like, oh yeah, that's my place, right? So I have always been intuitively guided, meaning the things that I didn't necessarily know, I've always reverted to I've always trusted my intuition to be the thing that gives me the right answer, even when it doesn't make sense. And so I just wanted to remind you that you have permission. And when things feel like they're not working out for you, can you allow yourself the grace and the love to trust that something better is coming? And more than that, can you give yourself permission to just be all of you? Because that's really what the world needs more than anything else right now. You're the only you there is. There's nobody else in this world that has the experiences and the wisdom and the knowledge and the gifts and the light that you have because of your unique experience. So it sort of feels like that's the thing, right? And when you're constantly seeking approval from others, it's exhausting. Not only is it exhausting, but it's not who you are. And it's not the place that you can serve from the highest, whether that's to be the best mom you can be, or to be the best doctor you could be, or be the best friend, or be the best entrepreneur, or healer, or light worker, or truth teller, or whatever that is, right? So I just wanted to share this morning because I believe the greatest betrayal, hopefully it's not too windy, I believe the greatest betrayal is the betrayal of our own heart and needing the approval from other people first. And I also believe that the universe always sets us up to fail when we are off of our path. And this is a really big one, right? So when we get let go of a job, when a marriage ends, when things don't go the way that we want them to go, it's really hard for us to connect the dots forward, but it's really easy for us to connect the dots backwards. So we can always say like, oh, that worked out because blah, blah, blah. But it's really hard for us to go forward and trust that. And that's why it's so essential that we really shore up the ability to hear and trust our own intuition. Because your heart always knows, you guys. Your heart always knows, right? You know that place where you're saying, oh, deep down, I know everything's going to be okay. Because you know. But you like to get to that place by despair. And you don't have to do that. You can get to that place from joy and ease and flow before you get to the, I don't know what else to do, but I have to trust that deep down somewhere it's going to be okay, or God will provide, or, source is with me, or whatever. So I just felt called to share that. And maybe it's for you. Amy, maybe it's for you. Kara, maybe it's for you. Maybe it's for people that never comment and never post and never say anything. But I truly believe in my core that life is always working out for me. And I know that life is always working out for you too. But you have to have the ability to trust yourself to make the choices and the decisions that you're intuitively guided to. And the world just needs you. That's it. The world needs you imperfectly perfect as you are right now. Like, you don't have to learn anything else. You don't have to do anything else. You have to just be more of you. So the great betrayal means the universe is always on your side. God is always in your corner. You are totally set up for all the things that you actually want. You just have to actually allow it. So put down the suffering and put down the struggle, put down the need for others to approve, the others to approve, and you to feel worthy by their approval. And lean into the fact that your heart always knows. So hope that's helpful. Feel free to tag me if you have questions, and I hope you have a beautiful day. Talk to you soon. Bye. Thank you so much for listening to the Confident Creative podcast. I am so psyched that I got to have this conversation, and I loved sharing it with you. If you enjoyed it, I would love for you to hit subscribe to the podcast, and it would mean the absolute world to me if you could go ahead and leave a review about what your biggest takeaway was. If you want to come over and continue the conversation, join us in my free Facebook community, the Confident Creative Collective. we'll be diving into all different conversations from the podcast, as well as some additional trainings and some inside scoop. If you want to find me on the interwebs, you can find me on Instagram at Keri.Gavin, KERI.GAVIN, or you can find me on Facebook. Thank you so much for being here. I so appreciate you, and thank you for sharing this with anyone you think it resonates with. See you on the next episode.